Welcome to today's flipped classroom. We will be going through BLGPS SA2 2014 revision paper, Booklet A. Alright now, since this is a flipped classroom, you are free to rewind, fast forward the video as you see fit. But along the way, please ensure that you also do the corrections, highlight all the important terms, and take note of all the terms that you need to know as you go through the video. As what we always do, for all correct answers, please put a small green tick. Otherwise, put a cross and do the appropriate corrections if you need to. Do not also forget that you need to copy down whatever important things that you can learn as you watch the video. So for question 1 on life cycle, the diagram below shows the life cycle of a particular animal. This animal has a 4-stage life cycle. So animals that have got 4-stage life cycle that you must know that's covered in the syllabus are: number 1, the cockroach. Number 2, you will have the butterfly. And number 3, you must know the beetle, or sometimes we call it the mealworm beetle. And number 4, you would have the mosquito. So all these 4 animals, you have to be very clear that they have 4-stage life cycles. So the question is asking which of the following animal is likely to have the same life cycle as the animal above. So let's look through the options. Option 1, you have the chicken and frog. Chicken has got a 3-stage life cycle, so does the frog. So option 1 is out. Option 2, mosquito, 4-stage, yes, but frog, 3-stage, no. Option 3, butterfly, 4-stage. Chicken, 3-stage, no. So the answer has to be number 4, butterfly and mosquito. Alright, question 2, Sandra placed a potted plant in a black box as shown. So this is a common setup you often see. Now after 3 days, she observed that the plant grows towards the hole. This shows that the plant is a living thing because it can. Okay, all living things, as you must know, requires air, water, and food to survive. All living things can grow. All living things can reproduce. As well as all living things can respond to changes. So this particular question is actually asking you to look at this scenario, and you should be able to point out that it is able to respond to changes in the surrounding, because it requires large sunlight for it to grow, so all the leaves tends to grow towards the hole. So answer is very clear to be option 4. Question 3, the diagram below shows the human digestive system. So here are the different parts of the digestive system, and then they're asking you what is part A. So let's run through the different parts first before revealing the answer. The first one, from connected to the mouth, what you have is the gullet. Some of you may be able to tell me this is also called the esophagus. Okay, next we have the stomach. And then food goes on to the next part labeled A, which we know to be the small intestine. And lastly, food will go on to the thicker part here, also called the large intestine. So answer is small intestine 3. Question 4, Pamela made some observations about the life cycles of 2 different animals and recorded them in the table below. The 2 animals P and Q are given with different ticks, and the observations that were made were: number 1, the young resembles its adult. The word resembles, you have to be clear that It also means looks like. The second observation, there are 3 stages in their life cycle. They have 3 stages in their life cycle. The third one, the young lives in water. So let's take a look which animals actually can fit the bill here. So in option 1 for the chicken has got 3-stage life cycle. It also has a young that resembles its adult. So, and its young does not live in water. So it fits the description of animal P. So it is true. For butterfly has got a 4-stage life cycle. It has a young that does not resemble its adult. It has got 4 stages, so the larva and the pupa does not look alike. So in this case, they are not the same. So yes, it fits the bill so far. However, the young of the butterfly does not live in water. So animal Q cannot be a butterfly. So again, option 2, chicken, okay. Mosquito, yes, mosquito has got a 4-stage life cycle. However, his young does live in water unlike the butterfly, so a mosquito is possible. So I think we can stop the discussion here. Answer has to be option 2. Question 5. Which of the following are similarities about a young plant and an adult plant? A plant can be described to have a 3-stage life cycle as shown here. So we have the seed stage. After it germinates, or we call germination here, we will have a young plant, and from young plant it grows up to become an adult plant. So the characteristic part about the adult plant, the difference between an adult plant and a young plant, differs in number 1, the size. The adult plant usually is much bigger than the young plant. Number 2, the adult plant is able to bear flowers and fruits. So in this case, it is able to reproduce already, unlike the young plant. So looking at the different options here, option A have roots. Yes, both the young plant and the adult plant must have roots. Otherwise, they cannot draw water from the ground to get water for its own survival. So similarities, yes, they both have roots. True. Now, they both do not have, not both of them have fruit. As I've just mentioned, the adult has got fruit, but the young plant does not. So option B is out. Option C is also out. And option D, able to make their own food. Yes, both young plant and adult plant are able to make food because they have leaves. As long as they have their own leaves, they are able to make their own food. So option A and D are okay. So answer has to be 1. Question 6. The following animals are grouped according to whether the young looks like the adult. So which of the following is grouped correctly? So in option 1, you will have the beetle here, and it says does not look like an adult. It is true. If you cannot recall how the life cycle of a beetle is like, let me draw the picture for you. So as you can see here, for the life cycle of a beetle, you have 4 different stages: the egg, larva, pupa, and the adult. The young of the beetle, which includes the larva and the pupa, both of them does not look anything like the adult stage. So obviously in this case, it is true that the beetle young does not look like the adult. It is true. Whereas a dog, like the human, the young does look like the adult. Yes. Just to refresh your memory, okay, for option 2, the cockroach has got a 3-stage life cycle, beginning with an egg stage, followed by its nymph stage, and the adult stage. So you must remember that anything that has got a nymph stage, right, would have the young look very similar to its adult. So in this case, the answer, this cockroach is not possible. And for the grasshopper, yes, the grasshopper also is like a cockroach. It has got 3-stage life cycle. It has got a egg stage followed by the nymph stage and then the adult. And yes, because it has a nymph stage, the young does look like the adult. Option 3, as we've just mentioned, the dog's young is, we also call it a puppy. The puppy and an adult dog looks very similar. So in this case, it is wrong. The beetle, I've just shown you the picture as well. The young of the beetle does not look anything like the adult. Mosquito, the young does not look like adult, yes. But for the butterfly, the young also does not look like the adult. So in this case, no. Therefore, the answer has to be 1. Question 7. Bobby grew a seed for a period of time and recorded his observation on the growth of different parts in the flow chart as shown. Different parts of a plant. So for this question, you must be pretty familiar with the developmental changes as a seed germinates and grows into a young plant. So for your quick revision, here is the life cycle of a plant. So as a seed first germinates, the first part that grows out of the seed, when the seed coat is being broken open, is the root. The root first would grow out of the seed, followed by the shoot. Okay? So after that, what will happen is that the leaves will start appearing, the first leaf, and that's when the plant stops relying on the seed leaves on the food and is able to make its own food with the sunlight. So let's label this in the diagram. After 4 days, part A should be the root. Part B that comes out after 3 days will be the shoot, or you can say the stem. Next, part C that develops after 10 days would have to be the leaves. And after 40 days, now the plant will mature into its adult stage. So all the way until here, you have the young plant. So from the seed onwards, from part A, we have the young plant all the way to here, you have the young plant. So 40 days late, at the end of it, here you have the adult plant. So in this case, part D would probably be a flower. So in this case, what could the answer be? Part A, root, yes. Part B, the stem. Part C, the leaf. And lastly, the flower. So answer has to be 1. Question 8, study the flow chart below. Now the first part here, the question being asked is, can it respond to changes? Can it respond to changes? So this is an important characteristics of all living things. So if it's not able to respond to changes, in this case X must be a non-living thing. Now moving on, if it's a yes, it means that it must be a living thing. Next, can it make its own food? Now the only organism that is able to make its own food is what we know now is that if it's a yes, it must be a plant. Alright? And if it's not able to, it is likely to be an animal. So now let's analyze the options. Which of the following correctly represents X, Y, and Z? As we have said, X is a non-living thing. So banana tree is a living thing, no. Tiger, no. So we are left with only option 2 and 4. Option Y, we said that it is a plant. So in this case, we are looking at either the banana tree or car. In this case, since it's a plant, a car is out. Option Z, we mentioned that it's an animal. So we are only left with option 2 actually. So the deer. The deer is actually an animal, yes. And the answer in this case has to be option 2. Question 9. 4 pupils made some comments about living things. So Dalila said that the dog is a mammal because it has got 4 legs. So in this case, if you realize this is not what we usually use, this is not the characteristics that we use to classify an animal to be a mammal. We only classify any animal with the number of legs being is an insect. So where insects have got 6 legs. So the Leela here must have been confused with this concept here. So let me pull out the important characteristics of a mammal here so that you can have a quick revision on your own. So as you see here, most mammals have an outer covering of hair. So outer covering of hair is the important characteristics of animals. So do not confuse what is a hair and a feather. Okay, when an animal has got a hair, it must be a mammal. If the outer covering of the animal is a feather, then we must classify as a bird. Next, most mammals give birth to their young. Of course, there are some exceptions. They include the platypus and the spiny anteater, which lays eggs. And lastly, now this is the most characteristic thing about the mammal. All mammals, not most, all mammals feed on their mother's milk. So this is the most characteristic part about being a mammal. So also shown here is that our mammal lives on land. Most mammal lives on land, but of course there are some that live in the sea. So the ones that live in the sea, examples are dolphin and whale. So in this case, we can say that the Leela is wrong. Next, Leon. The parrot is a bird because it has feathers and a beak. So yes, you can say that Leon is correct. And Gopal said that the banana tree is not a living thing because it does not move from place to place. Now, for moving to place, this is not a characteristic of a living thing. It's only a characteristic of an animal. So in this case, you can't say that the banana tree is not a living thing. The banana tree is a plant. That's why it's not able to move from place to place, but it is still a living thing. So Gopal here has a misconception. He's wrong. And Li Mei said that the car is not a living thing because it cannot reproduce. Yes, anything that cannot reproduce is not a living thing. So in this case, the answer, those who are correct are Leon and Li Mei. Option 2. Question 10. Study the plant shown below. Now the following statements were made about different plant parts. So there are 4 different parts here, A, B, C, and D. We should be able to identify and name them as well as to know what are their functions. So for part A, you have a leaf here. And the function of the leaf is to capture sunlight for the plant to make its own food. So capture sunlight and make food. Okay, in part B, we have the roots. The roots have the function of holding the plant to the ground, as well as to absorb water from the soil. Part C, we have the stem. The stem has the function to transport water from the roots to all parts of the plant, as well as to support the plant. Lastly, part D is the flower of the plant. The flower has a reproductive function for reproduction. So once the flower is being pollinated, it will actually be pollinated, and then it will next develop into a fruit, where the fruits will give rise to the seeds. Alright, so now let's take a look at the different statements here and see which is the one that is actually correct. That's what the question is looking for. So question statement W, part D, which is the flower, helps the plant to make food. Okay, obviously that is wrong. I just explained that it's for reproduction, for the bearing of fruits and seeds. Statement X, part C, which is the stem, carries water to the leaves. Yes, it is true. Statement Y, part A, which is the leaf, helps the plant to absorb water. That's wrong. That should be the function of the roots. And lastly, last statement Z, part B, which is the roots, helps to hold the plant firmly to the ground, which is true. So the correct statements here are X and Z, which is option 2. Okay, question 11. The diagram below shows the digestive system of a human body, and what will be likely to happen if Y is not functioning properly. Now you should be able to identify that Y, part Y, is the small intestine. And the function of the small intestine is for the digestion of food, as well as the absorption of digested food. So first, digestion as well as the absorption. Okay, so let's run through the options quickly. Option 1, food will be digested completely. Now, if Y is not functioning properly, I don't think we can expect digestion to occur properly, or completely, so this option is out. Food will not be digested completely. Yes, okay. But then again, this is true because digestion actually ends at the small intestine. Okay, so this is true because digestion ends at the small intestine. And you must know that digestion actually begins at the mouth, because the saliva produced in the mouth is able to digest food. Option 3, food will be absorbed from the water will be absorbed from the undigested food. Not true, because water absorption occurs mainly in the large intestines. Alright. Option 4, water will not be absorbed from the undigested food. Again, is wrong. So the correct answer is 2. Question 12. Which of the following is a matter? I think this is a very easy question. So we learned that option 1, heat is definitely an energy, type of energy. So is light. Sound, also a form of energy, but we have not really gone into detail in primary school yet. The last one, oxygen. Oxygen is a matter. Alright, anything that is not an energy source is a matter. In fact, oxygen is in the air that we breathe. So it is part of the air. Since air is a matter, oxygen is also matter. Question 13. Which of the following has no definite volume, or rather indefinite volume? So of the different states of matter that we are talking about so far, we know there is solid, liquid, and gas. So which is the one without a definite volume? It is only gas. No definite volume means that it is compressible. So only gas has got indefinite volume or no definite volume. So in this case, we have 4 options. Option 1 is table. Table is a solid, so it definitely has a definite volume. So honey is liquid, so definite volume as well. Marble is solid, so also definite volume. Carbon dioxide is a gas. We breathe out carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is found in the air, so we know that air is a gas, and therefore carbon dioxide has got no definite volume. Answer is 4. Okay, question 14. Vishal hung 4 objects from a rod and the objects moved as shown below. Now, which of the objects are definitely magnets? Okay, we must recall, to qualify something as a magnet, we must first see repulsion. So the 2 objects that we speak of must be able to show that they are able to push each other apart for us to say that these 2 are magnets. So if they are just showing that they are actually attracting each other, it can actually happen between a magnetic material and a magnet. So we can't say that the 2 materials are actually magnets. So let's take a look at the A, B, C, D, and what can we say about each of these cases. Now looking at option 1, A and B. So what we can see is that A does not show attraction, it is staying put, whereas B is being pushed towards A, right? It is supposed to be in a vertical position, but it was being pushed to the left. Now this can actually happen possibly due to C repelling B, all right? But this could show that if C and B are repelling each other, they could be magnets, all right? But in this case, A is staying put, unaffected, so we can definitely say that A is not a magnet. Option 2, A and C. Again, this option has got an A inside, so we can say that it's a wrong option straight away. And likewise for option 4 that has an A inside, we can say this is wrong. So the only possibility here is option 3, C and D. And let's take a look at C and D. For the case of C and D, you can realize that they are showing repulsion. So C is being repelled to the left and D being repelled to the right. So obviously this is showing repulsion, right, between them. So we conclude that C and D are definitely magnets. Question 15, which of the following magnets will repel each other? So magnetic repulsion occurs when there are like poles, right? So like poles repel and unlike poles attract. So let me write it down for you. Like poles will repel. For example, N and N, S and S. So these are like poles. Like poles will repel, and correspondingly unlike poles will attract. So example, N, S, S, N. So these are combinations of unlike poles, alright? So in this question, we are looking for magnets that will repel each other, so we need to look for unlike poles. Option 1, we have S and N. These are like poles, so you expect them to be attracting each other, so 1 is out. Option 2, now you have 2 like poles facing each other, we expect repulsion here, so option 2 is the correct answer. Now even though you know the answer is 2 already, but let's look at 3. 3 here we have unlike poles, so we expect them to be attracting. And likewise in option 4, you have unlike poles, so they should be attracting as well. So answer should be 2, very straightforward. Question 16, which of the following appliances make use of magnets? So these are appliances. Appliances are anything that you can find at your home, actually, electrical appliances. So which are the ones that are magnets? Let's take a look. For fridge, I think we should all know that the fridge door functions with a magnet to ensure that the doors are properly closed, so that there will not be any heat loss and any inefficiencies. So in this case, A is a definite answer that you must know. But for B and C, it may not be so clear. Okay, let's look at C first. Option C is a telephone. In a telephone, you have a speaker. This is the part where you actually put the earpiece or the speaker. Now, and then this is the part here that we speak into, that is called the microphone or the mouthpiece. And the one on top here, let me write down, is the earpiece. Now this is actually a speaker. Now you must know that both the speaker and the microphone has got magnets inside them for it to work. So answer C is also the one that has got magnets. As for So we need to make sure that these two we know, but option B, this is the one that we may or may not know in the computer whether they are magnets or not. Even I'm not entirely sure. But let's look at some combinations that they have here so that we can actually eliminate some of this choice. If it's A only in option 1, it's wrong because we know that A and C must be there. So this is wrong. A and B, you must have C again, so this is wrong. B and C is missing A, so wrong as well. So the most likely answer in this case will be A, B, and C. So in a computer, you probably also have magnets inside them. So it is also one of them. All right, that has got a magnet. So answer has to be 4. Okay, question 17. Look at the diagram below. So you have a person there, a lamb, and a teddy bear. And I think this is a question that we have done over and over again on the topic of light. Now, which of the following shows how Karine will be able to see the teddy bear? I think we have done this so often. So, in here, the lamp is the light source or the source of light. And so, for Catherine to see the teddy bear, which is not a source of light, light has to be reflected off the bear. So, first, you have a light ray that's going over to the bear in this direction, and after that being reflected into Carrie's eyes. So this is reflection going on. So the diagram that has got the correct drawing lines and arrow would be option 3. Okay, question 18. Now Bill placed a torch and a metal cup in a straight line on the table as shown below. So this question is apparently about shadow, light and shadow. So when Bill switched on the torch, he saw a shadow on the screen. Which one of the shadow will he see? I think this is something very simple. Now to make it a little bit more obvious to you, the possible light ray that you form is that light will travel in a straight line and it will cast a shadow on the screen because the metal cup is not able to pass through it, right? So it's going to stop here and not going to get to the screen. So this ray of light here. Okay. So if it's a good shiny cup, it could be reflected away, but it's not going to be able to reach the table, or sorry, the white screen being placed there. So what could the shade be? Now shadow is always being indicated as the darker part. So answer it should be 1. Question 19. Now Betty heated a metal ball over the flame as shown in the diagram below. Okay. When the ball is heated, what will happen to it? This is very simple. We have done this before under the topic on heat. One of the effects of heat is that it can cause objects to contract or expand. So when there is heat, object will expand. When objects are heated, it will expand. Or that means the increase in its volume. Okay, let me rewrite this for you. Expand, increase in volume. When an object is being cooled, when it loses heat, alright, cooled or loses heat, what happens is that it will contract or it will have a decrease in volume. So since the ball is heated, you will expect that the ball will expand, it will get bigger. So in this case, answer is 1. Very clear. Question 20. Irfan boiled some water in a kettle shown below. Now he was able to hold the kettle of hot water using the plastic handle because plastic, well, this is very obvious. We've done this many times in our solar book. So the reason why the handle is made of plastic material, whereas the body of the kettle should be made of metal, is that the metal is a good conductor of heat. Good conductor of heat. Whereas plastic is a poor conductor of heat. So the heat from the flame can be easily conducted to the metal and to the water, but because this is a poor conductor, heat is not be able to be transferred fast to the handle, so that the temperature will not increase and earphone will be able to hold it. So the property of the plastic handle in this case is because it is a poor conductor of heat. Option 3. Alright, question 21. Question 21 is about scratching and about hardness. So it's actually about a material property that was taught in the old syllabus of PSLE. Material property called hardness. Okay, so since this is out of syllabus for the current batch, which is your batch, we will not discuss this question. You may strike this out from the worksheet. Okay, question 22. Anthony conducted an experiment on magnets as shown below. He used a strong magnet and slid it under the table made from material Q. Material Q. Alright, so this table is made of material Q, and then the iron ball, as you see, when he slides the strong magnet towards this direction to the left, the iron ball also move in the same direction. Now, from this experiment, what can Anthony conclude about material Q? Okay, what we can see is that the magnetism is able to pass through material Q, so that it's able to attract the iron ball, which is a magnetic material. Remember, magnetic material that we know of are iron, steel, okay, and cobalt and nickel. So these are materials that can be attracted by a magnet, and they also can be used to make into a magnet, but they are not magnets on their own. Alright, so here you have a magnet. So it shows that it is able to attract, the magnetism is able to pass through this material here. So it shows that material Q has to be non-magnetic. Now, in a case where the table is made of magnetic material, for instance, if I were to use steel, what is going to happen is that the magnet will end up attracting the steel table, and the iron ball will not be seen moving. Alright? So you need to know that magnetism can pass through non-magnetic material, but is not able to pass through magnetic material. Clear? Question 23. Kai wanted to make the iron rod into a temporary magnet using the electrical method as shown below. Alright, so you have a battery, you have a wire, and then the wire is being coiled around a magnetic rod. So this iron rod here can be converted or can be turned into a temporary magnet. So what can he do to increase the strength? Increase the strength of the electromagnet. Okay, the electromagnet or the temporary magnet, it means the same thing here. So by adding one more battery, yes, this is true, we know that. Make the wire shorter. Usually the effect of making the wire shorter would be very negligible, will not be seen much, so not a very good answer here. C. Change the rod to a plastic rod. No, the plastic rod cannot be magnetized. D. Increase the number of turns of wire around the rod. Yeah, we have learned this as well. So option A and D, it will be the answer. So this case answer is 2. Question 24. Stanley wanted to use a magnet to move 4 objects on a piece of paper. Now he placed one end of the magnet near the object and recorded his observation as shown below. I think there is an error in this question here. In the table below, you only see 3 objects. The objects are actually P, Q, and R. So change the word 4 objects to 3 objects. So from the table above, which of the following is true? So let's take a look at how he has conducted the experiment. First, he placed the north pole of the magnet and see what happens when it comes into contact with P, Q, and R. So for P, there is no response at all. So we can definitely safely say that this is a non-magnetic material. Non-magnetic magnetic material. For Q, it shows attraction for both the poles, attract and attract. So in this case, we can safely say because it attracts both poles, in fact there isn't any repulsion, we can safely say that this is a magnetic material. For instance, steel or iron. As for R, we see attraction on one pole, the north pole, and repulsion on the south pole. So we can safely conclude this must be a magnet. So which of the statement below is true? Object P is a magnet, wrong. Object Q is a magnet, also wrong. Object R is a non-magnetic material, no. Object P is a non-magnetic material, true. Alright, so the only option here that is correct is option 4. Question 25. Krishna wanted to make an iron nail into a temporary magnet, and he stroked the iron nail with the magnet 20 times in a clockwise direction. Okay, in a clockwise direction. And as shown below, so he placed it near some iron filings, but the temporary magnet was only able to attract some of it. So what can she do, Krisha, do that that an iron magnet can attract more iron fouling? Now, before going into this question, we must know that this is called the stroke method of making a temporary magnet. The previous method that we talked about to make a temporary magnet is by the electrical method. Here, this is a stroke magnet. We make use of a permanent magnet here to change this into a temporary magnet by stroking it in a clockwise manner. It may not be clockwise, can be anti-clockwise. But you also need to know one thing, and that is the polarity of the magnet, of the temporary magnet. Now, since we start with an N here, okay, we know that this iron nail should have a south pole here and a north pole here at the end of the process of stroking it to convert it into a temporary magnet. Now, coming back to the question, what can she do to make the iron nail attract more foulings? Number one, option 1, use a longer nail. Okay, no, this will not work. Use a longer magnet. No, a longer magnet is not going to help, but using a stronger magnet is probably going to help. Option 3, stroke the iron nail 50 times. Yes, increasing the number of times it being stroked can actually help to increase the strength of the magnetism. So 3 is possible. And hit the iron nail with a hammer for a few times. Now, hitting the iron nail will actually cause it to lose magnetism instead, not magnetize it. It's the opposite. So answer, this 4 is wrong. So answer is 3. Question 26. Diana shone her torch on a ball in the front of a screen. Now the diagram below shows the change in the sizes of the shadow formed from A to D. Okay, so which of the following could have resulted in the changes in the size of the shadow? Now what you realize here is that the shadow is actually getting smaller when it's getting smaller when it changes from A to D. So now what could have happened when it goes from A to D? Now when it gets smaller, you can actually see a few possibilities. When it gets smaller, the shadow gets smaller. The one possibility is that the object is moved. Object is being moved towards the screen, right? Towards screen. Or away from the torch, alright? That's the same thing. Or you can move the torch away from the object. You have the same effect. Okay, so basically here, as long as the distance between the torch and the object increases, we can say that the object actually, the size of the shadow actually decreases. So when the torch, I repeat, when the torch and the ball's distance actually increases, the size of the shadow will decrease. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the possible options here. Option 1, the torch was moved nearer to the ball. Now when torch is moved nearer to the ball, you expect the shadow to get bigger from A to D. So this is wrong. The ball was brought nearer to the torch. When it's brought nearer to the torch, the shadow should also get bigger, right? Because the distance between the torch and ball decreases. So size of ball, or size of the shadow of the ball increases. So 2 is out. The ball was brought nearer to the white screen. Okay, this is something that I have not covered, I didn't mention earlier on. Yes, so when the ball actually is being moved nearer to the screen, you can also say that the distance between the torch and the ball gets increased. So that is actually a way to actually decrease the size of a shadow too. Alright, so in this case, 3 is possible. Now the white screen was brought further away from the ball. When the screen is being brought further away, you will expect what? Now let's draw a screen here where it's being brought further away, and you can imagine that the light ray, this same light ray here, will actually end up here, right? So you can expect the shadow to actually be bigger. So if initially this was the size of the shadow, now it's going to get bigger when the screen is being moved back. So the bigger you expect a bigger shadow when the screen is being moved back. All right. So not the answer that we're looking for. So option 3 has to be it. All right. Next question 27. Which of the following graphs correctly show the length of the shadow from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.? Okay, this is simple. Before even going into this, we should know that the shadow should be the shortest during noon time, because the light source, in this case the sun, is directly above the shadow. So we will look out for the option where you have noon time having the shortest shadow. So let's take a look at different options now. So 12 noon, 12 noon, 12 noon, 12 noon. Now of the options here, you realize that it is option 2 that's the correct answer, because you have the shortest shadow compared to the other 2 here. Alright, so option 2 has to be the answer. Question 28. Now which of the following statements are true about heat and temperature? True about heat and temperature. Option A, heat and temperature are forms of energy. Now, this statement here, heat is a form of energy, but temperature is not a form of energy. Temperature is a measure of the degree of hotness or coldness of an object. Alright, so in this case, this part of the statement here is wrong, so I will cross out option A. Temperature is a measure of how hot or how cold object is. Yes, I've just mentioned that. B is correct. C, temperature can be measured using a thermometer. Yes. And temperature of an object increases when it gains heat and decreases when it loses heat. That is also true. So the option here that is correct is B, C, and D, option 4. Question 29. Now Linda placed a beaker of water at 10 degrees Celsius into a basin at 80 degrees Celsius as shown. Okay, so which of the following graphs best represent the temperature of water in the beaker and the basin over time? Now before going into the graphs, how we can actually represent the temperature changes, we must know which is the hotter one, because heat always transfers from the object of higher temperature to lower temperature. So here we look at these two cases here. You have 10 degree and 80 degree. Water 80 degrees is definitely higher, hotter. So in this case, the direction of heat transfer would be from the 80 degree water to the 10 degree water here. So I've shown the direction of heat transfer. So you expect that the temperature will decrease from the 80 degrees in the basin, okay? And then the temperature in the 10 degree beaker should increase. So let's look at option 1. Option 1 shows a constant temperature in both the basin and water, and beaker, sorry. So in this case, it is definitely a wrong option. If you look at option 2, the basin starts off at 80. Yes, it's correct. And it slowly decreases. Okay. And then the beaker of water at 10 degree increases. So you expect this is the case to be correct. So option 2 is correct. Now, one thing I must let you know is that this is how it will be. Okay, heat transfer will occur in a way that temperature will approach temperature of both the hot side and the cold side will approach each other. That means it gets nearer and nearer. You realize that temperature actually gets nearer and nearer, right, to each other, but it will never meet. All right, it will approach very close to each other, but it will not meet. All right. So eventually, what will happen if you ask me? Okay, so what happens is that because this is being placed in a room, so eventually, the temperature might fall in both cases might fall to 30 degrees. All right, so this is what is going to happen. All right, this is additional information in extension of the question. So the other two options, I don't think we need to discuss it. They are obviously wrong. All right, question 30. That's the last question. A cup of hot coffee was placed into a bowl of ice. Now, which of the statements are correct? Okay, as for any heat question, we will first identify where is the heat source, or the hotter, not heat source, or rather the object with higher temperature. So in this case, it is the hot coffee, and the colder temperature, lower temperature in this case, is the ice. So the direction of heat transfer is on the hot coffee to the ice cube. So I can say that the coffee is losing heat, whereas the ice cubes is gaining heat. Alright, according to the direction of arrow I've just shown you. So which of the following statement is correct? Option 1, the ice cube loses heat. The ice cube loses heat to the bowl. Now the word loses here, straight away you can cross it out because it is wrong. It is ice cube gaining heat. Now option 2 as well, ice cube loses heat. Again, it is wrong. Option 3, the coffee loses heat to the ice cube. That is correct. Okay, we know that it's losing heat here, as we just said earlier on. Option 4, the cup of coffee gained heat. Now gaining heat is wrong again. So all these options here is wrong. So answer is 3.